Take a close look at this coin. At first glance, it looks completely ordinary. A modern quarter. Bright, familiar. The kind of coin most people receive in change and never think about again. But this is the 2008 D quarter dollar, and under the right circumstances, it can hold far more interest and value than most people ever imagine. The year 2008 came near the end of the State Quarters program, one of the most successful coin programs in U.S. history. By this time, millions of Americans had already collected state quarters for years. Albums were filled, jars overflowed. But public excitement was beginning to slow down, and fewer people were carefully checking their coins. That timing matters. In 2008, the Denver Mint produced quarters for 5 different states: Oklahoma, New Mexico, Arizona, Alaska, and Hawaii. Each design carried strong symbolism. Oklahoma featured a scissor-tail flycatcher soaring above wildflowers. New Mexico displayed the state outline with the Zia sun symbol. Arizona showed the Grand Canyon with a saguaro cactus. Alaska featured a grizzly bear catching a salmon. Hawaii honored King Kamehameha, pointing toward the future. These designs were detailed and bold, but because they were modern, most people assumed they were common and worth only face value. That assumption hides opportunity. The Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of quarters in 2008 to meet circulation demand. Coins moved fast through banks, stores, vending machines, and gas stations. Very few were set aside with care. Most entered circulation immediately and suffered scratches, nicks, and wear. As a result, truly high-grade examples are harder to find than many people realize. Condition plays a major role with 2008 D quarters. Collectors look for sharp strike detail, clean fields, strong original luster, and minimal contact marks. Coins that look ordinary in hand can suddenly stand out under light when the surfaces are still intact. But condition is only part of the story. Errors add another layer of value. During high-speed production, mistakes happened. Collectors closely examined 2008 D quarters for doubled dies, especially in the lettering and design elements. Genuine doubled dies show raised, rounded doubling, not flat shelf-like wear. Liberty, In God We Trust, state names, and dates are common areas to inspect. Other desirable errors include off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing. Broad strikes, where the coin spreads beyond its normal rim. Clipped planchets, where a section of metal is missing. And major die cracks or retained cud errors that appear as raised lines or blobs on the coin. Most people never notice these features. A slightly distorted rim or a doubled letter is easy to overlook. That's why many error coins were spent like normal change and mixed into circulation. Condition changes everything. A worn error coin may still be collectible, but one that survived in uncirculated or near-perfect condition is far rarer. Many potential high-value coins were destroyed by cleaning, mishandling, or improper storage before collectors recognized their importance. Because of that scarcity, collector demand remains strong. In confirmed cases, error examples of 2008 D quarters have sold for impressive prices. Minor but clear errors can sell for a few $100s. Strong, doubled dies, dramatic off-center strikes, and major die errors have reached $1,000 to $3,000. In rare cases where error severity and condition align, prices can climb even higher at auction. Pause on that. A modern quarter with a face value of 25 cents selling for thousands of dollars simply because it broke the rules of minting. Even without major errors, top-grade 2008 D quarters are collected. Coins, graded at the highest mint state levels with exceptional luster and clean surfaces, can sell for $100 to $300, especially for popular state designs like Alaska and Hawaii. Here's what most people never realize. These quarters are still everywhere. Sitting in jars, old state quarter albums, inherited collections, bankrolls that were never checked carefully. Because they look modern, they are often ignored. That is a mistake. If you ever come across a 2008 D quarter, slow down. Examine it carefully. Look at the lettering. Check the rims and edges. Use magnification. Compare it to a normal example from the same year and state. And whatever you do, never clean it. Cleaning removes original surfaces, destroys luster, and permanently reduces collector value. A rare error or high-grade coin can lose most of its worth in seconds if cleaned. If the coin looks unusual or exceptionally sharp, have it professionally authenticated and graded. Certification confirms condition, verifies errors, and protects long-term value in the collector market. Because sometimes value is not about age. Sometimes it is about condition, mistakes, and survival. And the next valuable 2008-D quarter might already be sitting quietly in your now. Take a close look at this coin. At first glance, it looks like an old silver quarter. Worn edges, soft details. The kind of coin many people assume is common simply because it comes from the early 1920s. But this is the 1922 D Washington quarter dollar, and it comes from a period that collectors watch very carefully. 1922 was a time of recovery in the United States. The country was emerging from World War I, the economy was shifting, and money was once again moving through everyday life. Coins were used constantly. Very few people saved them, and almost no one thought about condition or preservation. That reality matters today. The Washington quarter design was still relatively new. Introduced in 1932 for regular production later, earlier experimental and commemorative strikes helped shape what would become one of the most iconic designs in American coinage. Silver was still king, and quarters were struck in 90% silver, giving them intrinsic value even before collector demand is considered. The design itself is dignified and powerful. On the obverse, George Washington's profile faces left, calm and steady, with liberty above his head and "In God We Trust" beside his neck. On the reverse, the eagle stands proudly with outstretched wings, arrows clutched firmly in its talons. It was a design meant to inspire confidence during a changing time. The D Mint mark tells an important story. Coins struck at the Denver Mint during the early 20th century often show weaker strikes than their Philadelphia counterparts. Metal flow issues, die wear, and production speed all affected quality. As a result, sharply struck Denver coins from this era are far scarcer than mintage numbers alone would suggest. That is why collectors pay close attention to 1922 D quarters. Most examples show heavy wear, flat hair detail on Washington, weak feathers on the eagle. Bag marks and dull surfaces are common. Finding one is easy. Finding one with strong strike detail, clean fields, and original luster is extremely difficult. Condition changes everything. A circulated 1922 D Washington quarter still carries value because of its silver content and age, but a high-grade example is a completely different story. Collectors compete aggressively for coins that show sharp details, minimal marks, and untouched surfaces. Errors add another layer of interest. During this period, production was not perfect. Collectors watch for doubled dies, especially in lettering, as well as off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and die cracks. Genuine errors from this era are rare and highly desirable, especially when paired with strong overall condition. Because most coins were heavily used, error examples that survived intact are extremely scarce. In confirmed cases, high-grade 1922D Washington quarters have sold for impressive prices. Exceptional examples have reached into the tens of thousands of dollars at auction. Even mid-level mint state coins can sell for several $1,000s when demand is strong. Pause on that. A quarter once used in everyday commerce now selling for the price of a car or more, simply because it survived when almost none did. Here's what most people never realize. These coins still surface in inherited collections, old albums, estate holdings that were never carefully examined. Because they look like ordinary old silver quarters, they are often underestimated. That is a mistake. If you ever come across a 1922D Washington quarter, slow down. Examine the mint mark carefully. Study the strike detail in Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers. Look for original luster and clean surfaces, and whatever you do, never clean it. Cleaning permanently destroys collector value. If the coin appears unusually sharp or shows unusual features, have it professionally authenticated and graded. Certification separates genuine quality from ordinary wear and confirms true market value. Because sometimes value is not about how many coins were made. Sometimes it is about how few survived the way they should have. And the next valuable 1922D quarter might already be sitting quietly in your hands.